Star Citizen Alpha 3.17 should start testing shortly, and I want to talk more about some preparation you might want to do if you own a Starfarer, or if you want to potentially make some money with looting FPS gear, because certainly with the FPS gear and the looting, you can probably start doing it now. So let's talk about some of this gameplay, how it might play out, and worries that I have. There isn't too much physical preparation you can do for the Starfarer pre 3.17. However, I'd make sure it's not carrying any cargo or custom components, and the same with all the rest of your ships before the patch changes over from 3.16 to 3.17, because, well, ships often get their sort of data, persistent data sort of rewritten or updated so that they've got their default loadouts, so often you lose components that you put on there, and it's very likely that if you have cargo on the Starfarer or whatever, well, it's going to be basically replaced with the new version of the Starfarer, so I would expect that all to get wiped, so just sort of bear that in mind. With the refueling gameplay coming in for the Starfarer in 3.17, you're going to be able to fill up the Starfarer's tanks with a large amount of hydrogen and or quantum fuel, and then use this to refuel other players, but also, very likely, sell it at other landing zones and stations to make profit as well. I'm actually assuming that selling quantum fuel to stations and like that at large scale might be more safer and a bit more profitable than actually selling to players. But if you want to sell to a player, you may have to add that player to a party or respond to a service beacon. It sounds like from when the Cloud Imperium last talked about the refueling mechanics, that they didn't have specific service beacons for refueling in-game for 3.17. They're going to be adding them later, if they're not in 3.17. That might have changed. Hopefully that gets sorted. But that might make it a little bit fiddly. You might have to see players requesting fuel in chat, and then you're going, cool, set up a service beacon for transport or combat assist or whatever, and I'll come along and give you your fuel. So you need to then get to the ship with your Starfarer. They will have a reserve fuel tank even if they're completely out of fuel. When your Starfarer gets close, they'll then be able to move to you and dock with you and the rear fuel arm of the ship. You'll then be able to set the fees for the fuel, or you can actually set them earlier, but set the fees for your fuel and then pump it across using a user interface, and you have to sort of affect the aperture, which pumps quicker or slower based on, well, how quickly you want to get the fuel across. And they then get charged for the fuel as they take it, which is all then enforced by the game. You literally just get paid out every so often as fuel goes across. Now, other than potentially being a bit fiddly for a first implementation, this actually sounds pretty good. There might be bugs associated with it. As I said, there might not be a specific service beacon for refueling, but you can still do it. However, I think there's potentially a lot of danger in running a Starfarer and refueling for 3.17. There may be a fair amount of trapping, piracy, catfishing. In my mind, I see pirates calling in Starfarers to refuel as traps. They go, oh, I need refueling, lol. So if you turn up and there's a mantis or something there quantum interdicting you, that's not going to end well for your Starfarer. Again, if you're docked with the ship that you're refueling and you suddenly get jumped, you might not be able to react very quickly. If in doubt, as a Starfarer, be ready for a fight, and sometimes maybe bring some escorts. Now, there's an argument that, well, what do they gain from attacking you or destroying you? Well, they may very well know that you're full of quantum fuel and hydrogen fuel and just say, look, give me a payout, send me some money, otherwise I'm going to blow you up. Or it could be that they just want to blow you up. That some people just want to watch the world burn. Issues like random piracy that players are able to easily get away with in the short term is an issue. But it is a short-term issue. So it's due to a lack of important, meaningful reputation features. A player will only be able to do something like call in for fuel and then ambush a refueler once in a star system, and then they're going to be a criminal. No one will refuel them again. That reputation will persist. I'd also like to see something like a ratings app for services, so you can see the refueler and refuelee's rating. So you go, this guy has 22 fuel requests and a 0-star rating. I think that maybe this is a scam. That's a good point too. You don't know that the Starfarer that's coming to refuel you at the moment is actually a Starfarer. You're out of fuel. You're vulnerable. You say, I need fuel in chat. Someone goes, okay, I'll come fuel you. And they just turn up with a combat ship. That's not great. You're like, oh no. So yeah, they could turn up in a Redeemer, boom. The game isn't built out yet. People do things they wouldn't normally do. We will have to see if everything becomes refuel catfishing in 3.17. I think there's going to be a large percentage of that is just entirely legitimate gameplay. So most of it, hopefully. But you are going to see the occasional sort of pirate trap. You're going to see the occasional sort of, oh no, they weren't a Starfarer at all. They're actually, oh no, it's a whole wing of pirates. But you might see, and I hope we see, someone attempting to trap a Starfarer, and then it's not a Starfarer at all. It's a fleet of ships, and they will fight each other. That'll be hilarious. Beyond all that, I am actually expecting some fuel changes in 3.17 because, well, yeah, hopefully the Starfarer will be able to make good profit from buying and selling fuel at stations. I'm expecting that gameplay. And fuel will probably be tweaked so that ships will be more likely to run out of fuel if they're not careful. There do need to be tweaks here so that hydrogen fuel is a fuel that we will actually purchase. But what do you think? Tell me in the comments below how you're hoping that fueling, refueling, and sort of like tweaks and stuff may affect the game in 3.17 and what you're hoping will happen beyond that, because this is very much the first steps and then it will evolve. Now, let's talk more about selling stuff and selling more stuff and the reasons to loot. So at the moment, I'm going around in 3.16 collecting all the armor and weapons of players and NPCs that are killed in those areas or left behind, and then bringing them back to my ship and placing them in my ship inventory, because we're going to be able to sell a load more things in 3.17 to kiosks at landing zones. So this is things like armor and FPS weapons, and hopefully we'll see some interesting rare loot spawning containers that will be very valuable. So this means it's going to potentially be worthwhile fully looting and searching all around for those loot boxes, for actually bringing bodies back to your ship, and just generally spending some extra time at wreck sites and that sort of stuff. So we don't know the price margins of how much money you're going to be able to make from selling this stuff, but I think it's worth testing out and messing around with the gameplay as much as possible in 3.17 so we can have more formed opinions of what those margins should be. How long does it take? How much faff is it? What's the risk versus reward? Is my time better spent elsewhere? Is it fun to do to spend that extra time searching? Can I cleverly work out a way of efficiently bringing bodies back to my ship much more quickly and then stripping them? So I'm expecting that you'll be able to sell anything in your ship's inventory to a kiosk, or most things in the ship's inventory to a kiosk. I'm not sure if it's going to detect the FPS gear and items in your ship's cargo grid separately from that, where you would actually keep all the sort of commodity cargo. Almost certainly will in the future, but probably not on 3.17. I was originally a bit worried that maybe it was only going to be things that were on your character that you'd be able to sell, but that just seems really prohibitive to play, and there's no reason to do that. They can easily just go, yes, it's their ship's inventory that we can detect. I don't want to have to be faffing around bringing single parts of armor very slowly to a shop. So, I'm not expecting a persistent data wipe for 3.17. Doesn't mean there won't be one, but I think it's unlikely. I have seen things get wiped or removed from ships and their inventories before, even when there wasn't a persistent data wipe. So I recommend that if you can be bothered, if you've got the time, then maybe if you are storing up loot in your ship's inventory, maybe put it at a landing zone's inventory in the short term until 3.17 hits. It's quite possible you'll be able to sell things directly from the landing zone inventory as well. Again, this is all academic. If Cloud Imperium do decide to do a persistent data wipe or partly wipe some bits and bobs, but at worst, I'll just have to play more Star Citizen, which I'm happy to do. I'm hoping to start to see some extremely valuable spawns of items in certain missions as well that may change the dynamic of what's worth doing in the verse, what makes the most money, what players fight over, and what missions players go on. Because, okay, imagine these sort of things. Maybe there's an incredibly valuable sculpture which occasionally appears on the 890 jump rescue mission that you could loot. Maybe there's a valuable disk of data in Pleasure Prison, or maybe some of the wrecks occasionally spawn very, very rare loot that's worth a lot of money. And that's a huge amount of new gameplay. That's a lot of different ways of playing, and that was actually quite fun and would work very well in Star Citizen, but we'll have to wait and see if things like that are included in 3.17. Very much expecting them to be included in the very near future, if not. I'm interested to know in the comments if you are actually starting to store up items now already, or you're like, because it could be wiped, or because it might not work, I'll wait until 3.17. And what's your sort of mindset on that? In some other news, there is a VFX team Q&A coming this Friday, and that's somewhat exciting for me because I like to hear work on fire extinguishers, damage control, that sort of stuff. So this Friday at 4 PM UTC, there's members of the VFX team on the Star Citizen Twitch talking about stuff that they've been working on for the Persistent Universe. I will link the thread down below so you can ask your own questions or upvote people's questions that you like. So some of the aspects that you may want to ask questions on are fire hazards and tech, sized end bombs and physicalized shock waves, new dynamic landing dust for vehicles, salvage and repair effects, not gameplay, particle feature set lockdown, gas cloud interior effects, VFX concept support, various Persistent Universe content, ships, locations, etc. But not clouds, that's a different team, although they did say gas cloud interior effects would be a question. But it's not limited to just that. You can ask sort of whatever you want within that sort of sphere of VFX. But some of the top questions currently are, how is fire progressing? What ships will be the first ones to see fire tech internally? Will we ever be getting a landing light or camera view on a ship that points downwards so that we can see what we're landing on at night? Will we ever see night vision or thermal vision on ships or helmets? Has any work been done for environmental effects on ships? Can we run our ships in dark or stealth mode with all the lights off? What's their news on the new quantum travel effect rework that was mentioned in 2020? And there's loads more. We might get some good info on damage control, fire emissions, as hazards, salvage, and even other Persistent Universe content info here. I'm hoping that you sort of like talk about things that they're working on for the next couple of patches, stuff like that. But boom, that's it for your Star Citizen news and updates today. But I'd love to know what you think. Are you excited for expanded selling? Are you going to be looting every little thing, or do you think it's too much time and effort? Or is it not your sort of gameplay? Do you prefer to fly your spaceship rather than doing FPS things? Are you a Starfarer owner who is worried about piracy going mad in 3.17? Or are you extremely excited by refueling updates? What about damage control and fire? Does that excite you, or like, oh no, that's more faff? Do you think we could see some of this later this year? We are expecting Alpha 3.17 to go into Evocati testing probably by the end of next week, and an open PTU or live build probably at the end of March, maybe like the live build first couple of weeks of April. That's the sort of rough timeframes I'm currently expecting. But what do you think? Whatever your thoughts, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. I am French and sophisticated. I am also French and also sophisticated. Let us go on a date. Neither of these people are French or sophisticated. It was me doing a funny voice, as well as showing the horrors of dating online and what happens if you accidentally catfish yourself with 2 of your own accounts. But French people don't talk like that even. No one does. NordVPN can make you appear to be in France, but it doesn't make you French, as I've now found out. It can be used to improve security or give you more accessibility to the internet. I can watch all my favourite shows. Get yourself NordVPN today in the links below and maybe be a better version of yourself. Now that's shilling for you. Every month we have a Star Citizen ship giveaway, and March is no different. We have a Crusader Industries Mercury Star Runner. This multi-crew, multi-role, cargo and data running ship is my favourite ship in the game. It has loads of little smuggling holes. It's got a good amount of armament. It can do a little bit of everything in the game at the moment. To be in for a chance of winning it, just comment on any of my videos made during March. More details in the description below. Please consider liking, subscribing, and potentially even clicking that join button under my videos to help further support the channel. Share the videos around with your friends and family. You'll occasionally get exclusive videos, posts, and polls that help influence the channel, along with emotes and badges to show your support. It really does help. There's also a Patreon and direct donations tool for those inclined. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you have a great March 2022!